After my last video, which didn't really go as I had planned, I decided to make it up to myself by doing a video that combined some of my favourite things in the world. History, politics, and football. Now I know that's a dangerous game to play, combining those, but if we're being totally honest with ourselves, football is inherently political. It started generally in working class neighbourhoods by people who are very politically active, so it's not actually that much of a stretch. So I figured, since I'm in Krakow, arguably the place where Polish football began, we're better, right? In Krakow you will find the two oldest football teams in Poland, Cracovia and Wisla, or Wisła. My pronunciations are going to be absolutely terrible during this. Hopefully you learn a wee something, but any Polish people watching, I apologise in advance. I'm about to butcher the language like nobody has done it in a long time. But anyway, join me, you might actually learn something. Right, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't know why all the gates in this stadium are open. So I'm going to take a gamble and I'm going to walk inside, see what happens. My plan was just to kind of walk around the stadium, try and show a wee bit and maybe tell you a little bit about the teams here, but if there's a possibility I can walk inside here, that is an opportunity too good to pass up. If I get shouted at, I get shouted at. Ah, see what they've done. They're tempting me. Right, is this open? Nope. Ah, that must just be for buying tickets and stuff. Right, I see. Well, there you go. This is what the inside of Cracovia Stadium looks like, if the camera will focus on it. Very new, very modern. Anyway, I think they were just trying to tease me a wee bit. So the name of the stadium here is the Marshal Pilsudski Stadium. Now who was he and when did he play for Cracovia? Well, that's the funny thing, he didn't. Marshal Pilsudski, again, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, he was actually the Prime Minister of Poland at one point. He is often referred to as the father of the Second Republic. Now, the Second Republic existed from 1918 until, well, you probably guessed, 1939, where the Second Polish Republic was abolished by the Nazis and the Soviets, kind of. Again, I'm trying not to get too controversial here, but you know, it lasted until 1939. So why would you name a football stadium after a politician? Well, he's a national hero in Poland. That doesn't mean that everything he did was perfect, that doesn't mean that he was always right, but he is a national hero in this part of the world. He fought against the Russians, he fought against a number of different adversaries, if that's the word to use. And he was a massive Cracovia fan. Good enough reason, right? There you go. Now, if you remember back to my video in Tirana, in Albania, I mentioned that lots of these new football stadiums seem to have like shops and basically like a small shopping centre down below them, probably to try and recoup some of the money they spent on it. This is another great example of that, an example of how the inside part is obviously just the football stadium, and it seems very nice from what I could see, and on the outside it's just basically a big shopping area. Sort of takes away the charm of the traditional steel beams of the outside of a football stadium, but at the same time, you know, economics do play a part in this stuff. And Cracovia aren't exactly the most successful team in the world. I say that as a Partick Thistle fan, so I'm not saying that to be disrespectful, it's just reality, you know. Ah, there you go, that's a perfect example. Do you think they pay the players extra money for doing that, or do you think it's part of the contract? What do you reckon? Personally, I have no idea, but he must have been buzzing. The idea of his face being on a board outside for everybody to see, that must be quite a nice feeling, I would think. here's a rare opportunity if you ignore my reflection in the window. That's a nice strip. Bit basic, but it's nice, and the away strips, it's nice enough. Not a lot of effort's been put into it, but it's a nice strip nonetheless. Now, of course, if one of your famous supporters is the father of the Second Republic, you might be thinking, that's pretty good going, you can't really top that, can you? Well, there is another candidate for the most famous Cracovia fan ever, and it's a guy called Karol Joseph Wojtyla, or as you and I know him, Pope John Paul II. I don't know about you, but whenever I hear about someone in a position of authority pretending they like football, in the UK that is often just a lie. Whereas in Eastern Europe they seem to actually like football. You know, the Pope was genuinely a Cracovia fan, he actually cared. In the UK, for example, we get guys like David Cameron, who used to pretend that he was an Aston Villa fan, purely so that he could sound more like a normal person. He then had a wee bit of a slip up at one point at the Conservative Party conference, where he basically said that he supported West Ham. In other words, he's a snob who has never watched a game of football in his life, and he saw two teams playing in the same colours and couldn't tell them apart. Aye, Eastern Europeans are just a bit more authentic, I think. So that is the stadium of Cracovia. Now, the rivalry they share with Wisla is quite a fierce rivalry. In Scotland, when Celtic play Rangers, it's called the Old Firm. In Spain, when Barcelona play Real Madrid, it's El Clasico. In Belgrade, Partizan v Red Star is the Eternal Derby. Well, the rivalry between these two teams, whose stadiums are separated by nothing but this bit of grass and a few trees, is known as the Holy War. Aye, things get pretty intense here. As I'm walking along this grass here, trying to avoid dog shit, because there's quite a bit of dog shit actually. As I'm walking along here, I can't help but think you've got the stadium there, and you've got the other stadium over there. This particular piece of grass must have been a battlefield on a number of occasions, because we know both sets of fans, in the past especially, have just started rioting and fighting each other. Must be an absolute nightmare if your job's to prevent riots, but aye, they chose to build the stadiums this close together. And when I'm walking along the grass here, I can't really help but think, or I can't help but imagine, just two guys, you know, one called Pavel and one called Joseph or something like that, absolutely beating the living fuck out of each other on a Saturday after the game. And then on Monday they go back to work and sit next to each other. Alright mate, how was your weekend? I know that sounds like quite unlikely, but football fans kinda do that. That is sort of how it works. But anyway, I'm going to go to the other stadium. I'm going to stop imagining a Polish version of Green Street. Oh, and by the way, just whilst I remember, if you want to see two football stadiums that are a lot closer than even these two, get yourself along to the city of Dundee, where you will find Dens Park, home of Dundee Football Club. And right down the same street, you'll find Tannadice, home of Dundee United. Unfortunately, their rivalry is pretty intense on Derby Day, but generally speaking, they don't hate each other. You know, there's no long history of extreme violence between the two of them, so it doesn't cause as many problems, but it is still a weird thing to see. Any football lovers out there, they want to see something a bit mad, get yourself to Dundee. Tell you what I like about this stadium. Outside they've got pictures of some of the club legends over the years. Guys who have obviously achieved a lot and are remembered by the fans here. Anybody who's familiar with Scottish football knows who Magic Zurawski is. He played for Celtic for a few years under Gordon Strachan. Gordon Strachan's a Scottish football legend who was a pretty good manager as well, I thought. So I know Zurawski, I know some of these guys, but I don't know too much about some of them. Oh, is that who I think it is? Aye, too right it is. Now this guy's an absolute baller, by the way. Is it who I think it is? Aye, it is. Jakub Blaszczykowski. A guy who recently came out of retirement. He's about 40 something, but he came out of retirement because, you know, if you're still good enough to kick ball, why not? Eh? But this is pretty good. I like the way they've done this. They've honoured their legends. A list of their achievements. Polish champion and vice champion. I'm not entirely sure what vice champion is. Club owner and team captain since 2019. Okay, so not only is Blaszczykowski a club legend, and not only did he come out of retirement, but he's a club captain and he's one of the owners of the club. Oh wow, that is actually quite impressive. Right, okay, fair enough, big man, that's good. I think more football teams should do stuff like this. Definitely. Now, the stadium here, Wisla Stadium, is named after Henryk Reman, who was arguably the best Polish footballer to ever exist. Now this guy, a bit like Pele, scored so many goals that we're not actually sure how many he scored, but they think it was probably somewhere north of 300, maybe 350, higher than that. What a legacy that is to lead, right? Brilliant. But basically this guy, he was the best Polish footballer there was, could turn an ordinary team into champions, that kind of player, you know. After World War II, he started working as the coach of the Polish national team until Joseph Stalin decided that he wasn't communist enough, and so he banned him from doing so. It wasn't until Stalin died in 1956 that Reman was able to come back and he was able to help the Polish Football Association. So it was a guy who changed Polish football forever, who inspired his team to be the best. And he survived Hitler and he survived Stalin. What an absolute lad. Brilliant, love it. Right, well, I think I'm going to call it a day at that and go and try and get myself some food. I feel a lot better after that last video though. This one was actually a wee bit better. So, dziękuję. I'll see you later.